Hi and welcome to this channel. Today, we'll be talking about GigaByte. This company is probably most famous for their gaming graphics, cards like this one here, which features a colorful design and silver traces. But of course, they also make motherboards, laptops, servers, AIOs, PC cases, and many other products that are sold in 80 different countries all around the world. But how did it all begin? Well, the story actually starts in Taipei, Taiwan, in 1978, when a young man named Jack Burr was born. His family was unwealthy, but they had enough money to send him to university, where he studied business administration. After graduating, he got a job at Acer and worked there for 2 years until his boss left the company to start his own business. Mr. Jack was asked if he wanted to join him, but he declined because he wanted to focus on his personal life at the time. The boss ended up being Michael Dell, yes, the founder of Dell Computers. So not only did Jack turn down a great job opportunity, he also turned down a chance to become a billionaire. But we all have these kinds of moments in our lives. At some point, Jack Burr realized that he didn't really want to work at a big corporation. So, in 1983, he quit his job, gathered some friends, and started a small trading company called Panda Electronics. They were importing chips from Japan and then selling them to local companies in Taiwan. Business was slow at first, but after 3 years, they finally became profitable. The company operated out of a tiny office with just 4 employees and without any advanced technology. Everything had to be done manually, and so at night, after everyone else left the office, Jack would stay behind, turn off all of the lights, and use his computer to calculate all of the orders by hand. Because of his hard work, the company was able to grow steadily over the following years. By 1988, it was clear that the computer market was growing very quickly, and Jack felt that the time was right to take the next step and found his own company. So he invested all of his savings, borrowed money from banks, and convinced some friends to invest as well. With this capital, he founded a new company called GigaByte on June 24th, 1988. Just like today, the headquarters was in Taipei, Taiwan. At first, they continued to do what they'd been doing for the past several years, buying chips from Japanese manufacturers and selling them to companies in Taiwan. But Jack always had bigger plans for his company. In 1990, they started developing their own motherboards, and just 2 years later, they released their first product on the market, the GA6. By 1994, they expanded to the US and built a factory in Kanshan, China, which is still their largest manufacturing facility to this day. In the meantime, more and more companies began working with GigaByte because they could offer higher quality products at lower prices. This led to GigaByte becoming the world's largest motherboard manufacturer. It should be noted that GigaByte was one of the first brands to release motherboards with integrated sound. And during the late 90s, they also introduced the first VIA and SIST chipsets. Additionally, they kept expanding to other markets such as the UK, Germany, and Hong Kong. In 1998, they decided to develop their own BIOS, and in the following year, they made a breakthrough in the American market. Things were looking good, but during the dot-com bubble in the early 2000s, the whole industry suffered tremendously, and even GigaByte had to cut some jobs. Luckily, the impact on the company wasn't too severe, and once the market recovered, GigaByte kept growing. They developed the first 9000 series chipset, launched the Aorus brand, and opened another factory in Suiki, China. They also began designing high-end server and workstation motherboards. In 2006, they entered the gaming GPU market, and just 2 years later, they made an acquisition that allowed them to enter the laptop market. In 2008, the global financial crisis hit, and again, the entire electronics industry suffered. This time, though, GigaByte was much better prepared and was able to overcome the crisis without any major issues. This is when the company made the decision to expand outside of Taiwan and open subsidiaries in other countries. So far, they've created companies in Hong Kong, China, the USA, the UK, Germany, France, Russia, and Japan. In the meantime, the company continued to grow. They released their first Windows 8 certified motherboards, the GeForce GTX 650. The first low-end GPU with 2 GB of RAM, and their first Intel Haswell platform motherboards. In 2014, they also launched their first VR products. Then, in 2016, they celebrated their 28th anniversary and opened their new X series. 2 years later, they entered the AIO market and also launched their new Aorus gaming box. Since then, the company has continued to grow and has reached almost 150 different countries worldwide. Today, GigaByte employs over 16,000 people. But now, let's talk about their most popular products, their graphics cards. While they do make both high-end and budget models, they are mostly known for their mid-range options. One reason for this is that those products tend to perform better per dollar spent. And secondly, GigaByte makes some really cool-looking, colorful designs that especially appeal to gamers. This has helped them gain a strong foothold in the market. Of course, GigaByte isn't the only brand making colorful GPUs. Colorful, MSI, and PowerColor also have some great models. But GigaByte was one of the first ones to start this trend. Their products are considered to be in the upper mid-range segment, often providing slightly better performance than MSI, but at a cheaper price than Asus. The first model we'll be talking about is the GigaByte GeForce RTX 3060 Eagle OC. We're using the OC version here because it has pretty much the same price as the standard model. While the difference in performance is negligible, the OC model does come with a higher boost clock speed and a larger fan. Overall, it's a great mid-range card for 108 OP gaming. The price tag of $330 puts it a bit above the RX 6600. But the RTX is a much more capable card overall. You will be able to get slightly higher frame rates, and the card will also be able to upscale your games using DLSS technology. This is super helpful because it means you can play games at higher settings, even if your monitor does unsupport 4K. Not only that, but the card will also support ray tracing. So if you want to play games like Cyberpunk 2077 at 108 OP, using the highest settings and enable ray tracing at the same time, this card is a great option. In terms of design, the 3060 fits into the typical slimmer and shorter form factor, but it still features two fans. Although the card itself is black, the RGB lighting shines through the front fan and creates a really nice, colorful look. The back also has this sort of metal plate with a rather unique texture. Unfortunately, the card doesn't have a backplate, but overall, I think it looks pretty good, and the price-to-performance ratio is quite decent. Another great model is the GigaByte GeForce RTX 3050 Gaming OC. This card costs just $250 and is perfect for those who don't need the raw power of the 3060, but still want a slightly better experience than what the $200 1650 Super offers. If you want to play games at 108 OP using medium or high settings, then this card is a high settings. Once again, the card uses DLSS to upscale the image, so you will be able to enjoy titles like Cyberpunk 2077 at 108 OP using high or even ultra settings and enable DLSS to maintain smooth frame rates. As for ray tracing, I wouldn't recommend enabling it for Cyberpunk, but for other titles, it's totally doable. For example, in Crysis Remastered, you will be able to get close to 60 EFPs at 108 OP using the highest settings. What I find particularly interesting about this model is the design. Unlike the 3060 Eagle, which is almost entirely black, this card features a dual fan design with silver traces. Of course, you can change the color using the RGB software, but it looks really nice in its default configuration as well. Personally, I prefer this design over the 3060 Eagle. It just looks cooler and more elegant. While the 3050 and 3060 are great options, GigaByte also offers some more expensive cards. Let's take a look at the GigaByte GeForce RTX 3070 Eagle OC. This card costs $500 and is perfect for anyone looking for a powerful GPU that's still affordable. Of course, you can buy a used 380 or the same amount of money, but the 370 is a much more consistent card. You will be able to use one for 40p easily, and even 4K gaming is possible, even though the card will struggle a bit with Cyberpunk at 4K. You will still be able to get close to 60 FPS using medium settings. The card also supports DLSS and ray tracing, so if you want to play Cyberpunk at 1440p using ultra settings and enable DLSS along with ray tracing, you will be able to get close to 60 FPS like the previous models with colorful RGB lighting. The design is very simple, but the silver traces on the fans look very nice. In my opinion, this is the best looking card out of the three we talked about today. Overall, the card delivers excellent price to performance, and it's definitely worth considering. With all that said, there's one thing I would like to point out. GigaByte tends to ship their cards with blower-style coolers, while Aorus models feature triple fan designs. The issue with this is that the cooling performance may not be optimal. Therefore, if you live in a hot region, I would recommend going with an alternative brand such as MSI, Colorful, or Power Color. And with that, this concludes our look at the GigaByte story, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.